2020. We're very glad that you're here, and we're beginning our meeting today with a scheduled public hearing on the vacation of a portion of Rimlap Drive. And I understand that the sheet that's going around for you to sign is to record your attendance at the public hearing, and that's routine matter. We always do that when we're recording the attendance and keeping a record of those that might be in attendance at a public hearing. I'll recognize our county engineer, Mr. Stewart. Is there anything that you want to say in regard to what is proposed?
Mr. Tim Ingram has asked for the county to abandon this portion of Rimlap Drive. Each of the commissioners should have a map showing the portion that's being asked to be vacated. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, to our commissioners first, will we have any questions in regard to this proposed vacation? This is in District 4, so Commissioner Washburn, if there's anything that you need to call to our attention, please do so.
It's been brought up before, but we ended up not doing anything about it. But since then, one piece of land's been sold, and they were concerned about the cemetery, and that's no concern now, so as far as I know, there's no concern.
Okay, thank you.
It is a dead-end street. Rimlap Drive is a dead-end street at that portion, so it would just be shortening this length of road. Mr. Ingram owns each of the parcels adjacent to the road that we're vacating.
Okay.
Is there a cemetery out there, or what was it?
There is, but where we're vacating, it has no effect on the cemetery.
Okay, so that's an explanation of what's proposed today. The public hearing is for hearing from the public. So if there's anyone that would like to address this issue at all on this side of the meeting room, please raise your hand and let me recognize you. Anybody that'd like to be recognized? Okay, if not, anybody on this side of the room that would like to be recognized in any way, we'd like to hear from you on this issue. If you're favored or opposed to it, this is your time to be heard. Okay? We'll let the record reflect regarding the minutes to the public hearing that there was an explanation given to what is proposed. The public was given an opportunity to comment, and we received no comments in regard to this issue. So, I suppose that we will consider that further in our reports from engineer and decide, commissioners, if you would like for it to be on the agenda for the Monday meeting. Okay, that said, we'll conclude the public hearing, and again, welcome everyone that's here. And we'll start with our guests and delegations. It's on our... Oh, we have a bid to open as well, okay. Yes, we do, regarding guardrails. So let's take care of that and get that dispensed with. How many bids do we have, Ms. Goode?
Just one from Alabama Guardrail.
One bid submitted from Alabama Guardrail. And Dustin, you might remind us the reason it was necessary to rebid this item?
Yes, sir. This bid will coincide with a HRRR grant that we received from ALDOT recently. Some changes we needed to make to our annual bid, and these changes will be incorporated into that grant program. So,
Okay.
they did bid each of the items. Alabama Guardrail, they're the sole bidder. So I'll
Okay.
have a bid tabulations on Monday.
Okay. All right, thank you. Just to restate, we have rebid the item of guardrail for the reasons expressed by the county engineer. We received one bid from Alabama Guardrail. A bid tab will be presented, commissioners, to you on Monday from the engineer for consideration of that item of business. Okay, does that take care of our preliminaries?
Yes.
All right, I think so. So we'll move into our guests and delegations. Ms. Sue Copeland, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and congratulations
Thank
on your win. Glad the elections, not really, they have period reform. I came here to talk about Dallas Loop Road, and I had this fancy but boring speech, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna speak from my heart. I grew up, hopefully I won't cry. I grew up on Dallasford Road. Way back then, it was a beautiful road. Now it's not so much, it's not a scenic road in Blount County, but it's still home to me. I had some wonderful memories of riding my bicycle with the neighborhood kids back and forth from one end of the road to the other. Sometimes we would stop at the cemetery and tell spooky stories. Those are great childhood memories. And my son had a few of them too when he would visit my parents. My grandchildren live on Dallasford Road now. And I want the same happy memories growing up for them. The world has gotten so crazy, so they need some simple pleasures. Instead of sitting in front of the Xbox all day, they need to ride their bicycles. They need to stop and tell spooky stories. But they have a problem now. They have a problem with doing that. And I want to show you why.
It'll clip on the top up there if you need it. See that clips down, doesn't it? It doesn't? Okay, I'm sorry.
Just hold it.
I'll just hold
My son's house is up here, you can't see it, but this is his driveway. And this is Dallasford Road. This is what my grandchildren have to contend with to ride their bikes. I also have some other pictures, not many, but some others for you. The first one is the same as the poster.
I got a question if I might. Is there a
Sure,
driveway pipe there, can you tell,
here.
right there.
on that, on your son's driveway?
This is the driveway right here,
Is there-
goes up to my son's
Is there a
house.
culvert though?
It looks like there's a pipe right there.
Well, that's on Edgewood Road, it wouldn't be out there.
Right
I
here?
don't, there's not a pipe there.
Okay. I'll-
When I talked to my commissioner, he stated, and I can understand why this has to be, that because Dallas Loop Road doesn't have a lot of high-volume traffic, he had to give his attention to the more traffic roads. And so we only have like 37 people on our road that have cars and drive. So I know that's not high volume, but I need to address that a little further. On our road, we have a daycare. Parents drop their kids off and pick them up every day. We have one of the oldest and largest cemeteries in the county, Bethlehem Cemetery. People are constantly going, visiting their graves, relatives' graves. And also, the 1st of May, every year, we have Decoration Day. And there's like 500 people there. And they all want to drive on Dallas Loop Road, because it's happy memories for them. Also, the daycare has a blood drive 3 or 4 times a year. And the Red Cross comes out, sets up the big bus. People come from all over to donate blood. There's 2 school buses that come down Dallas Loop Road every day, pick up children. And I know that's not like downtown Oneonta, but it's a lot of traffic for our little road, including when there's a wreck on 79 within that quarter-mile radius. The traffic is diverted. We have 18-wheelers coming down Dallas Loop Road to go around the wreck. So we really need our road repaved. I know,
I have one question.
sure,
I talked to you the other day on the phone,
yes, sir,
and I told you I was gonna fix that road,
in 2021.
and it's not gonna change. I'm not trying to be rude, it's
Do you
not
want
gonna
us-
change.
Do you
I
want us
have
to live
family-
like that for a year?
Well, it's just gonna have to. I have family buried in that cemetery. 95% of my family's buried in that cemetery, and I go to Decoration, same time you do. And I just come off 79 highway. And you can't access that cemetery from 79. And I have a lot of family in that cemetery, and I got a lot of family in that area, and I'm very familiar with it. And I don't understand why you're up here complaining about it after I told you I would fix it.
I'm trying to get my road paved, that's all I'm doing.
Did I tell you I was gonna fix your road though?
In 2021, do you really not care that the road looks like that for another year?
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Copeland, we hear you, and it certainly is your right to come and speak, although it sounds like the commissioner has already corresponded verbally with you on that and has a plan in mind. So, you know, we wish we could get to it earlier too. I live on a road myself that's, parts of it gets in real bad shape, and I'm not sure when that's gonna be repaired, but it sounds like you got a time frame and a goal to work toward, and that's probably the best that we can do. But we appreciate you coming, we thank
I
you.
have two more little things,
Okay,
is that all right?
yes, ma'am. We just have a long list of things to cover today, so if you, okay.
I got, Mr. John there gave me a printout of all road pavings for the last 3 years in District 4, and I don't want any comments. I'm not complaining, I'm just going by what you said. But there is one job, 2017, on Tadlock Road, Tadlock Trail, that has only 6 houses. It's not a through road, it's a cul-de-sac with no traffic. I'm just saying. I want to leave with you a petition signed by everybody on Dallas Loop Road to please resurface before 2021.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Copeland, again, we appreciate your concern and interest, and it sounds like there's a game plan in mind, and we will, Commissioner has something going. Wish we could get to it sooner, but that may not happen, but we are diligently working, and let me say from the perspective of what I see as the chairman, you know, we embarked on a course of action just a few years ago to try to work our most high-traffic roads, what we call farm-to-market roads, major minor collectors, and working our way on down. And we have made tremendous progress on that goal, and we are working our way down to these roads. Thankfully, we have some extra money that's coming our way for paving from the state gasoline tax that passed. We have not received money on that yet, but it's going to come. It's going to be another little boost to us to go with the money that we already have. So we're making progress, and I just encourage you not to be discouraged. It'll get done.
I want to tell you, my three beautiful grandchildren, you handled the adoption for my oldest.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I hope they're doing well.
Well, very good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yes.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Copeland, Ms. Copeland, could I say something?
Sure.
By looking at the pictures, it's good for us because we don't travel that area, but it's going to be a large challenge for the commissioner to be able to do it in the time frame he's already got with the conditions I see the road in. But it would help if you could go along with them and get the right-of-ways, because he will have to get construction easements, because the problem that I see, there's no ditching. And the counties can only work the road they've got. And there's no need of putting any money, as you can see, toward a paving project. The water's not off the road. So he's got a lot of ditching over there he has to do, but he's gonna need those construction easements before he can prepare his workmen to go out there. So you could really be a viable help to the commissioner, working with him, trying to get all these right-of-ways so they can move forward on that.
I'll be glad to.
Okay. Very good.
One thing about
Yes,
as
sir.
far as planning out that far ahead, I've got roads already planned for 2021 that just simply don't have the money this year. We get the gas tax money coming in, the legislature passed, and it's just simply not there. You do what you can in a year and plan down the road too, what you got coming.
And by getting the word that they are gonna pave it in 2021, realizing that you've hit the lottery in the Blount County roads, because there's a bunch of roads that are in the same shape you're in, and,
I'm sure with all the
and-
rain.
and so- and by your district voting back in Nick Washburn, they give him the ability to continue on with his plan with that, and that's huge, and so I think getting those easements and really celebrating the fact that it's coming.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Copeland. The chair at this time would recognize Mr. Wayne Ellis. Mr. Ellis, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, I appreciate you letting me come.
Certainly.
What I'm here about is about the handicap situation. It's approximately 280 foot from where I parked this morning to get in the front door. Is there any consideration before the commission to get that walkway covered? The covered walkway for the people, I had to, I'm not complaining. I asked, y'all may want to shoot me when I make this statement, but I asked the good Lord to let it be raining when I come to speak about it.
Well, your prayer was answered.
Brother Griffith, he's answered my prayer.
And looks like you'll come-
Yeah, don't take it down there.
If you'll come every day till next week, looks like it's been doing that too, so.
Hey, let up, hey, once this is over, let up on that if you will. 'Cause pray for some
I never
sunshine.
thought I'd be in this physical condition. I've got 2 blown out knees, and I'm on braces now, and I'm first stage of COPD. And this is home. I've been in Blount County 76 years. Started in 62 working with District 4. And I know the condition, I know the money situation from then to now, it's the same scenario, you ain't got no money. And you have to do what you can, and I appreciate what you've done. And Nick, I want to congratulate you on winning again. And I'll talk about you next week. But overall, gentlemen, it's just, I've had some other people say, Wayne, will you go voice our opinion about getting that covered? I said, I'll be glad to. So that's the main thing I'm here is about that, and just how far it is. Well, you should come in right here. And I know the security situation, I don't know, does all the county employees have to come through the metal detector now, like the public,
Not if they come in before
except before work time?
work time.
Okay. I was asked that question.
Mr. Ellis,
But
can I
that's
say
really-
something though?
Yes, sir.
I parked all the way down by the church, and I walked all the way in, and I come through the metal detector, and I always
Well, I
have.
know some of you do, I'm just, I'm not, I'm just saying, I never thought I'd be in this physical condition.
Yeah.
I've had a stroke and a heart attack, but, us old folks that's crippled and broken down would appreciate if it's covered like this morning. That jacket's soaking wet. But I appreciate your
Yeah.
time.
Mr. Ellis, we appreciate you being here, and I would like to make just a comment or two, for the public, because I understand what you're saying, I understand the problem, but we've had a very unique problem to work with in that this building was built in the early 50s, and there was no consideration, or at least not the same consideration given then that is given now to access. So we were faced with a challenge. Every one of our doors is a flight of steps.
Yeah.
And you're right, the back door used to be available to the public, but that ramp doesn't meet American with Disabilities guidelines, and so we've left it there, just sort of a delivery. You roll a hand truck up there to deliver things. So we've really had a hard problem with that, knowing that when we started this process a few years ago, it was going to end most likely with a single point of entry for a metal detector, just because of the change of times that we're in, which we very much regret, but it seems it is the right decision and necessary. So we hear your request. I think that's something that we would have to give some consideration to as to how we would do that and make it aesthetically pleasing for the courthouse. And we have tried to do our best with a handicap parking lot over here to make it easy, but that's a pretty high entrance, and it takes
I
the
understand that.
switchbacks to meet the ADA compliance. So we appreciate your comments, and we'll take it under
Well, if
advisement.
any of you get, excuse me for interrupting, but if any of you get a chance to go to Fort Payne, in DeKalb County, and look at their covered walkway, how they've got theirs. they don't have to come up that high, but just, being covered in a rainy day situation would be helpful. And again, I thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Mr.
thank you very
King.
much, Mr. Ellis. Okay, we're gonna continue to move forward. However, I think, gentlemen, with your indulgence, I'd like to look down at item 12 for a moment, because we do have with us Mr. Lester Hallman and Mr. Frank Cannon with the DVA, and with our no, I'm trying to say museum curator. That's why Miss Amy Rudy that's here. They played a big part in the memorial. Thank you, though. I appreciate. Listen, after this week and being up as late as I've been every night for this election and all that, I need all the help I can get. So thank you, John. But gentlemen, y'all are here to talk to us about item 12. Let's go ahead and recognize you. So if you need to get on with your day, that you could.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate the time. I'd like to begin by saying Blount County
Thank you.
is one of the richest counties in the state of Alabama, in the United States, with veterans population. But considering that in 2008, Blount County sent the first honor flight to Washington. We carried 43 World War II veterans, 21 guardians, and they visited all the memorials. And what we're asking is that we consider doing the same for the Korean and Vietnam veterans. We also have possibly 2 World War II veterans that did not get to go on that first flight. One of them is a lady from the Hayden area. But we're looking to raise between $75,000 and $100,000 to do this. The money that we're raising will provide a chartered flight from Birmingham to Baltimore. From Baltimore, we will take chartered buses from Baltimore into Washington. We will see all the veterans' memorials. Possibly go to the Arlington Cemetery, see the changing of the guard, and but we're in need of the airline will have 153 seats on the plane. We plan on carrying 100 to 110 veterans, and the rest of the flight will be with guardians and, our curator of our museum. This will provide snacks and meals and snacks, a t-shirt, a hat for each veteran. It will have the Honor Flight logo on it. But we're asking for monetary donations. The commission, I know, has Boone Street roads, but in 2008, when we went up there, we had a donation from the commission, and we greatly appreciated that, and we would appreciate anything that the commission could do for us at this time. I know money is tight, but we are in a great time as far as money. Things have opened up with our administrations and with all the new jobs and what have you, but we would greatly appreciate anything the commission could do toward this fight. And we have a great start. We've got a little over, 3 weeks? we've raised almost $21,000 for this. So anything the commission could do or consider doing, we would greatly appreciate for the veterans of Blount County.
Mr. Holland, let me tell you that we really appreciate you being here. We want to give Mr. Cannon an opportunity to say anything if he'd like to as well. We have already tried to look into this a little bit legally, and we will continue to seek legal counsel and how that we might could help. We don't feel like we'd be able to make a check of public funds directly to that effort, but we were looking back and seeing how that was handled when there was a help before on that, because I'm sure that, without speaking for everyone, of course, that we want to help you if we can and help our veterans. We'd have to figure out if there's a way that we can legally do that.
We understand that, and we appreciate the consideration. But like I say, we're undergoing, now we're not going until September on this fight.
What's the goal, Mr. Holland, what's the goal that we need to set to have all that money raised? Is there a date certain?
Well, we have already made a down payment
Okay.
to, what is it,
We made around an $8,000 down payment to Honor Flight National Memorial.
Okay, all right.
To pay for the flight and everything, it's gonna be around $78,000, so we need about $69,000.
Okay,
To
all right.
pay for that.
You got a good start on it already. I think that's
we
great.
We have done extremely well in the 3 weeks that we've been working
Right.
on this, Judge. And
Right.
We've got plans to, in place to forward it to businesses and corporations in the county. But I would like to say, Blount County is the only county in the state of Alabama, and as far as we know in the nation, that has undertaken this goal for the county itself.
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
They will be, and I can't mention them, but there will be several things that are brought forward that will be the first for these honor flights. And there is a waiting list on the National Register. This is all going through our museum, through our curator. There is, I don't know how many thousand on the National Register waiting to go, veterans waiting to go. And we're undertaking this as a county just to be brought forward and to recognize our veterans. So, it's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it is, but it's
have-
worthwhile.
We have committed ourselves as veterans and as the museum to do this for our veterans in the county. So we're well under the way. I think we have about 20, 45, and 50 veterans already signed up.
Signed up, okay.
So we've got time to get the veterans, in which I feel like there will be many more coming in. But in what we have planned is possibly if we have, say, 200 vets apply for this, doing another flight in 2 years. Or thereabouts. But I do appreciate the time of the commission. Thank you, gentlemen.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Tallman, gentlemen?
Have y'all tried doing a GoFundMe? Have y'all said anything?
We have got a GoFundMe page.
It's in the process.
It's in the process of being set up.
That's a good idea.
Can we share that on our Facebook
We're
page?
working social media.
We're also asking the churches, I haven't got this, haven't Judge Green about this, but we're asking the churches on Memorial Day weekend to do like a love offering.
Good idea,
We've got
too.
several things, we've got a young lady that has got, these tumblers that she has donated that we are selling. She paints a picture on them. I didn't bring mine, but it's got a combat scene, I'll say, and on mine, the Disabled American Veterans logo and my name. And they are available through the museum or one of the committee. But we're doing several things like this. So you may see roadblocks out in the county. We've discussed this with the sheriff, and he has given his blessings to doing roadblocks and just numerous things that we are working for our goal here in the Veterans of Washington.
Any questions or comments?
One thing,
Further?
I just want to say I appreciate all of your services and both of them, and I'm thankful that they're getting this opportunity to go up there. It'll be a historic visit for all.
Well, I think it's a great honor for the veterans. It's a closure for a lot of the, especially the combat veterans in Vietnam and Korea. And we really think this is something that has been needed, and we appreciate the commission and what they do and their trials and tribulations with dealing with money. So we do appreciate y'all, and we thank you for your service as well. Thank you.
I like to say something. I do appreciate everything y'all do, and we go way back. So I appreciate the service that you gave to the country. But you know, this commission's going to do everything we can to help. Everything we can to help. And
We appreciate that, and we realize that just from the working on the bridge and doing that. That was a great thing for the county, not just the veterans. It's a great thing for the county, and we do appreciate all the work you do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tallman. Ms. Cannon, do you wish to be heard in any way?
I'm just here for more.
Okay, so you concur with everything Mr. Hallman has said. You agree with everything he said, okay? Amy, is there anything you need to say?
I agree.
Okay, all right. So, gentlemen, although we had this down at number 12, since we had our guest here, we was able to go ahead and talk about that. I don't know that we would need this particularly on the agenda for Monday until we figure out what we can do.
Leave it on there.
I'd like to go into executive and talk about
hey, Frank, could you?
Okay.
Frank, could you?
All right.
it's about
Yeah,
Sure. For Monday, or come back for Monday to sit in there, because there's some things I think we could ask him.
yeah.
To help us.
Mr. Cannon, could you possibly join us back on Monday for our meeting?
Yes, sir.
For, there's a little discussion that we might need to meet in executive session in regard to this. We'd have to defer to council whether that would be allowable or not.
Yeah, let me look at the exception.
Okay, all right.
All right,
So-
let me go out and just ask him some questions. We might not even need him.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, I've reached out to the Department of Examiners
Okay.
to determine what would qualify for a contract of services, because they certainly, the veterans groups,
Yes.
provide services for the county.
Right.
So if we could come up with some way that was legal to provide a contract of services with the veterans groups, then that might be.
Well, certainly they provide tremendous amount of
Okay.
service to each other, so,
I've got a thought that
Okay.
y'all
okay,
would like to talk.
Okay.
I think that's what we did last time.
okay.
Remember?
All right, well, let's leave it on the agenda then and see if,
Charles Carr,
Uh-huh.
And we just had a contract for services there. That's what the auditors are gonna be looking for, is do you have a contract? You can't just donate money, but we can create a contract,
okay.
as long as they're providing a legitimate service.
Okay, very good. All right, let's go back up to item number 3, will just be adopting the agenda that you settled on today, gentlemen. Number 4 would be consider approving our minutes from February. 5, approving our claims for February. 6, to recognize our Jail Training Academy graduates that were not able to be with us last time, which would be our Mental Health Officer Kathy Urban and Corrections Officer Anthony Economies. Sheriff, do you think Officer Economies would be able to join us? You got, good, okay. All right, we'll leave that on our agenda. We recognize them as not being able to be here last time and did mention that we'd roll that over. So if we could give them that special recognition, we appreciate that as well. Number 7 is something that we'll try to draft this afternoon and tomorrow, but you might remember in December, we recognized the Master Gardeners Association for the many years of service that they provided the county and the special projects that they have undertaken to do. We also mentioned that April 1st would be the retirement date of our Extension Service Agent, Mr. Dan Porch. Mr. Dan Porch's retirement is going to leave a huge hole in our community, and we'd like to invite him and prepare a resolution that would just congratulate him and extend appreciation for his years of service here in Blount County if meeting your approval. Okay? Number 8 would be to just let you know that we have received a petition from the West Blount community. It is sort of a follow-up on the meeting that we had a few months ago where Miss Dinah Wilson came and asked us during budget preparation to make a donation to a group that was meeting there at Hayden, and we did so, and I hope that's been a big help. But they're asking the commission to give consideration of providing a facility in the West Blount area for senior citizens. And I think that's a matter that we want to make you aware of, and we just have to say it's something that we'd also take under advisement. The county has participated in assisting with the building of a facility in the town of Sneed and here in Oneonta, and that's largely done through a process of a 2 or 3 year planning where we tried to bring some community development block grants to the table. So certainly we can be aware and take advantage of any opportunities that might come up. But wanted you to know that we had received that, and the chair would defer to Commissioner Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's something that had to be planned out, and we couldn't take on our own. Hayden is currently, the town is currently letting them use the community center, which was where the polling place was the other day. There's no issues there. Hayden, I think, provides some toiletries and everything else for the senior citizens and gives it to them free of charge. So, you know, I mean, that's as good as we can do right now.
Okay, all right, very good. So we'll keep that on record. Maybe we establish a file in our filing system regarding this request, that we keep the petition and maybe have a place to file further information as we have an option to bring any monies to the table through Community Development Block Grant. Now, we know that for this year, we have a grant that will be for the Black Road, Mount Hebron Road, Mount Road area, and we'll have to complete that. We don't anticipate doing that until we have, we won't be completed in time to do application for next year, but once we do finish that, one of our next priorities has been the Kiowa Road water project, if we can help there bring water to that community. So certainly it could be on our wish list and do list, but it would be a little time in the future.
If we just get tar that will bond to water.
Yeah, okay. All right, that being noted, we'll move to number 9, and that's just consider our citizen-centric report for 2019. John?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, if you look in your packet, there's a draft copy of the 2019 citizen-centric report. You remember last year we started this, and we just wanted to highlight 4 different things. The citizen-centric report is designed by the Association of Government Accountants, and it's designed to be a way to communicate with the public just what's going on with their county in a pretty simple, easy-to-read manner, with some financial information, what our projects have been, and what we're looking forward to in the future. So the first page talks about who we are as a county. And last year, I sent the citizen-centric report in to the AGA. They sent me back feedback on what to change because they issue a certificate of excellence in reporting. And so we tried to design this one this year with that feedback in mind, and it was just to give a little more information on who the commissioners are and how they're elected and that sort of thing, to provide a year-over-year comparison on financial information, so I added that in. a few other things that we've added in there. But I wanted y'all to look at this and also give me any feedback or input of projects that you'd like to include, that might be future projects coming up this next year, or if you have something that I may have missed that happened in 19 that we'd want to include in our accomplishments. I'm open to that. This is just a draft. I want it to be the commission's report, not just my report, so.
John, that second page for 2019 accomplishments, as I looked that over, that's quite impressive. And I'm telling you, it's gonna be hard to match that in another single year, because some of these projects, you know, get worked on for multiple years, and then we finalize them and celebrate that. But that's, you know, the grand opening of the first community college campus in Blount County, those historical sign restorations, the opening of the Kings Bend Overlook, the opening of the Freedom Bridge, and dedication to of those events. Of course, we had the Governor of the State of Alabama with us, groundbreaking of the DHR building, which we had Commissioner Nancy Buckner from Montgomery with us as our guest that day. Those are quite an impressive list of accomplishments, commissioners, that you're to be congratulated on. And of course, I know they didn't come about in a single year of effort, but it was.
And this historical marker, just made me remember, there's a old, it looks like an igloo. It's made out of limestone rock on 31 Highway.
Okay.
The property's for sale, but it's where they used to make ammunition during the Civil War, and me and Winston just happened upon it about 5 years ago. But it may be something we look at getting a historical marker and working with it. Yeah, I
Okay.
thought, wish I'd called.
Well, I can.
That's a good thought, though. That's to mark that.
Civil War ammunition?
Mhm.
Okay.
Someone else has recently asked me about a historical marker. I'll have to think about that. Don't recall it right now, that.
That thing's pretty
Mark
neat. Like I
area
said,
of the
it's
county.
amazing it's held up all these years.
But I want to give y'all an opportunity to take this and think about it. You don't have to tell me right now. And we don't even have to approve this Monday. This is just something that if you want to take and think about it, if we're ready to move forward Monday, I'll print it up. This is just a draft. I'll print it to look better on better paper and better ink. But, you know, if you have something that you want to include, just let me know and we'll work to do that.
The future projects, I think that's great that that's also part of that. Commissioner, what do you, can you think of something we need to include that you'd like to? Because I think this is a great bit of information to get out there to the public, and it's something, if you to keep in mind too, anytime any of you are asked to speak to the civic clubs or interact with any groups in the county, you got a handout right there ready-made to go make a speech and talk about a lot of things that are happening, are gonna happen in the county. I can't think of anything right off that might need to be added. Anybody?
38, Nolan. Okay. Yeah, it's on there.
Thinking about maybe putting a picture of Mount Hebron Road,
Currently?
because that is not Mount Hebron.
No, that's not. That's a stock photo, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I thought.
Don't want any part of
That
that,
may
it would look like.
That may be Montana. I'm not sure.
No, I just thought that might, you know, that might
That's not our
make it a
jail.
little
either.
off. Yeah, yeah.
Those are just stock photos, but I can go out and take some pictures. I just didn't have any pictures of Mount Hebron.
Well, that's the only thing I could even think about suggesting. Commissioners, if you're ready to approve that report for distribution, we can leave that on the agenda.
I'll try to get it finalized with these things, and if you have other input between now and Monday, let me know, and I'll.
Well, and I was gonna say Hayden, which we helped come through EMA with the storm shelter.
Okay, that's right. Y'all,
Anytime one gets put in any.
Yeah, that's good. That's
I'll include the storm shelter. Hey, and that's a community center too, right?
It's right by the fire department, but it's a community shelter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
storm, but is that not where they're meeting? Isn't it?
No.
Like have a meeting facility?
It's right down the hill.
Okay. I'll go out and get a picture of that.
Yeah, the county crew helped do some work there. and-
Well, we've got some video of y'all's crew working, I think. Maybe I can get some pictures of
Yeah,
that.
it came through the grant after the 2011 tornado. too, so.
Okay, and it was finished in 19.
Yeah.
That's right, okay. I'll include that.
Scissor Ward's got one just.
Yeah, they got, I think they came through the same grant year.
Yeah.
I don't know when they finished it though.
Did, 2 months ago.
Did we do the work, on that,
We,
Susan Moore?
we provide some services up
Okay,
there,
all right.
a little bit.
Okay. If y'all think of anything else, just text me or something, and I'll try to go get some pictures or.
This looks good.
I think it's
Did a good
great,
job.
John.
Thank you. Well, my skills are not graphic design, but I'm struggling through it, so.
No, I think it's great. Okay, of course, we will have the award of the guardrail bid on the agenda. 11, discuss options for placing defibrillators in county vehicles. So, John, do you have
Yes,
information
sir.
on that?
This is something that we've actually talked about in the past. I saw the sheriff yesterday, and he brought up the possibility, so I'll let him kind of give the details. But I thought, he asked me about putting defibrillator, or AEDs, I can't say the other word, into
Hey,
law
John, you want to
enforcement.
talk about this for a second?
Yes, sir.
Because I kind of changed tactics, I kind of changed gears a little bit on this, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
I've been, ever since I first came into office, I went to the very first sheriff's thing I ever went to, where they had vendors set up. We had defibrillators back in our cars when I first started as a rookie. But they haven't been kept up, they haven't been kept up to date. We only have like 2 or 3 left now, and they're not even in the cars anymore. So the very first thing I went to when I had these vendors set up, I talked to the guys who do the AEDs and things like that. Guy came and talked to me yesterday in my office, sat down, we had a good discussion. And so I've decided that I'm gonna put one in every one of my patrol cars. I'm gonna put a defibrillator in every patrol car. They're gonna provide the training on that as well as CPR training for all of my deputies. And I'm not gonna put them in the SRO's cars because they have them in the schools already. He was going to suggest putting one in this room, but as John and I discussed, there's already 3 in the courthouse. So we had talked about, John and I had discussed them putting them in your foreman's trucks. If that is something that you guys would like to do, I will take care of it.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna put one in every one of my patrol cars, and if y'all want y'all's foremans to have one, I'll have it.
So that's just, it's a life-saving piece of equipment that I suppose as long as you're properly trained
Yes, sir.
to do that.
It's very easy. He went over it yesterday in my office, and really defibrillators are like everything else in technology. They advance as they come up with better technology, and this is the same thing. Now you just put the strips on there, and it tells you everything you need to do. It's not even any button
Talks
pushing.
to you.
No button pushing anymore. You stick these things on there, and it tells you what to do, step by step.
Okay. Any question for Sheriff, gentlemen? If not, you're saying that while you're working on this project, to put one in the foreman's truck, if they'd like to do that.
I'm gonna put one on my patrol cars, and if the commissioners would like one of their foreman's vehicles, I'm gonna have it.
Now, a few years ago, every one of we had at least somebody on the crew that went through CPR training. I can't remember how long it was.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Probably
It was,
this
I
time,
went
probably time
through,
to-
so it's been within the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was gonna see if you know if your foreman, I think somebody from every crew went through
Yeah,
and
they
should
did.
have somebody certified.
The only thing that I will need from you guys is an email address for us or for the defibrillator company to get in contact with you, because they will require a test of your equipment every so often. It really doesn't require you guys to do anything. All they have to do is log on to an email and say, or you log on to email for them and say that the equipment has been tested. They come out and they handle anything that is close to expiration when it comes to the pads, the wires, the batteries, any of that kind of thing. They handle that as part of the contract. All you guys just have to do is go through the training.
Would this, well, the next question, I guess, on that would be, does this fall under professional services?
Would it
And
require a
what's the
bid?
cost?
Would it require a bid?
It's less than
Less than 15,000 a year. We could probably also assist or even handle that testing in here. Hannah's the safety director. I hate to just throw more on her, but if you wanted it to run through a central place to,
I had to do it coaching at the park several years ago. Everybody had to be certified, but I don't know how long the certification lasts. I can't remember.
as far as your personal
Yeah, that's what
certification.
I'm saying. I don't know if you go over
Yeah.
one year or 5
We
years.
can find that out and make sure we get those classes scheduled. It wasn't that expensive to get everybody certified, so.
This company assures me that everyone this training will be certified and have anything needs to be kept up to date, they'll do it as part of the contract.
Appreciate that, Sheriff.
Okay, thanks, Sheriff. Okay, we've dealt with number 12. Number 13 is just to recognize we have a request from the folks local now that does the 72-hour Bible reading marathon every year in conjunction with the National Day of Prayer, which starts on Thursday, May 7th. We have allowed them to do that here in the front of the courthouse. And they seek that permission again this year because it is a 24-hour a day reading of the entire Old and New Testament. Would there be any questions or concerns or objections? Okay, if not, we'll just give them permission to do that. By moving second on Monday, 14th, consider authorizing the chair to execute a request for proposal by the Alabama Department of Human Resources for the Almeda Robertson Adult Day Health Program that is held in conjunction with the Aniana Senior Center. Any questions there? Okay, that's the one program that does pay money into the county that really helps us alleviate some of the expense of senior center cost. Okay, consider DHR board appointment. Late yesterday, right at the end of the day, I received a letter from the Department of Human Resources County Director, Ms. Catherine Dennard. Most of you know that Dr. Stoney Beavers, who was our Assistant Superintendent of Education, has retired from that post and is now moving on to other endeavors in his life. We wish him the very best. He served our county very well, and we'll miss him a lot. But he also represented the county commission as our appointed board member to the Department of Human Resources. And so we're asked to replace him. Mr. Beavers made a suggestion that Ms. Jennifer Dean, who's also affiliated with the Board of Education, works out with all of our county schools, be considered for that appointment. DHR recommends that to the commission if you would like to consider her. Most of you may know Ms. Dean from being for the past several years, worked here at the Board of Education in home health care prior to that, and note that her husband is teacher and coach at Appalachian, and that she also is the daughter of a former superintendent, Mr. Jim Carr. So would there be any objections to consider Ms. Dean, or would you like to give that some further consideration?
I think that's a great recommendation.
I certainly agree, and she is willing to accept and serve. You know, that, like all of our board appointments, we need people that will engage and actually serve, and she has expressed a willingness to do so. Well, we'll just place it on our agenda to consider the appointment of Ms. Jennifer Dean to fill the unexpired term of Dr. Stoney Beavers.
And that, I looked this morning, that's gonna expire in March of 2021.
Okay, March of 2021. Okay, we'd like to call your attention to item 16 and ask our county attorneys to engage here in case there is reason that this might need to be anything discussed in executive session. But we want to review a little bit about records requests to the county. We know that there's a item of legislation that has been introduced and is under consideration in this current legislative session regarding public records. I don't know where that might wind up. It's very much of a concern to the people that work in probate judge offices like myself. And Jeff, you're shaking your head?
I think it died committee.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. Anyway, that legislation would require, as it was introduced, it required us to produce any records that might be requested from the general public, and those requests could come by telephone call, email, letter, however the request was to come, and we were to furnish that within a certain length of time. And that caused us real concern because, you know, I have a number of people in the county records vault researching records on a daily basis for all kind of business purposes. It might be to research the title on properties that are being conveyed and so forth. And so in original form, this bill was going to require us to furnish anything to anybody that requested it for very little cost. So the concern was, considering the amount of public records that we deal with in my office, and of course my office being funded by the county commission, that it would take an additional staff member, if not two, just to fulfill those requests. So that's been the major concern. It's not been a concern that that the information not be made available. Certainly it is available in that record room, but it has not been our responsibility to provide it. It's been our responsibility to maintain it and give the public access to it. Now, beyond that, we, a couple of weeks ago, had a public records request here at the County Commission for a very large amount of information that would have caused us to either hire some part-time help or John to somewhat shut the office down to comply with. And because of the nature of that request and how much information was involved, then John, I think, just notified the commission that he felt like that was a decision he would not be able to make and would like for the county commission to make that. That was a request for public officials' email records that was going to extend into the thousands. And of course, those records would have to be somewhat vetted for any information that might be pertaining to any employees and so forth. And so it would take actually probably several weeks to provide that and to retrieve that information and print all that was involved. So I think for that reason that we need to give some consideration to how we handle those issues going forward and how we handle this issue. It still is a standing request for the commission, but you know, if you get a request for email production, for instance, as this was, if someone asked for, I'll use myself as an example, if somebody asked for a copy of all my emails in the past year, where my email is concerned, you're probably talking about somewhere between 10 and 15,000 correspondences. A lot of those would be where I've corresponded with families seeking help. Whether or not that would fall under any judicial immunity, I don't know. But once you go back and produce those emails and print them, then you're probably looking, you know, you'd probably be looking at, let's say there's 10,000, you're probably looking at no less than 30,000 pages once they're printed off of the server. Once we were able to combine them, those would need to be looked at to see. So it's just that is a monumental issue that we've never dealt with before and don't really know how to deal with it without it causing us to hire some help, or would it be necessary for the county attorneys to vet those emails prior to going out? What hours would that take? The hours that it would take to print those and make them available to the public, and the cost that would be. So there's just that's a lot of information, and how we would produce that information and how we would charge for it is the big issue. So when we receive that, John and I and county attorney discussed the fact that that was not something that we could readily comply with. So I want to defer this to Scott at this time to just give any input on what recommendation from legal counsel would be.
And Judge, I will not go into the discussion that we had confidentially, but currently, I would recommend to the commission that you look, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I would recommend that you delete your current form policy, I'll call it both, a form and a policy. This form has got a policy on the back of it. It imposes unnecessary restrictions on you all that the law of the state of Alabama doesn't impose upon you. And so I would suggest the first course of business, that I would recommend that you pull that policy back and just abide by state law, as opposed to adding additional requirements on yourself. Of course, a form for the public to fill out is always good. That's always a good practice. This particular form that I'm speaking of goes beyond what is necessary and adds time restrictions on it that just may be impractical.
It's a 7-day.
Yeah.
And of course, this type of request could not be complied with.
Not even,
Length of
not even
time.
close.
I mean,
And of course, it's got a fee in there and so forth, I believe, for those requirements. And I believe as long as you're complying with state law, then that's a safe position to be in if you adopted a new form to comply with state law in this. So that would be the first recommendation that we would have. Jeff and I both looked at this situation, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the request for records that was made has been withdrawn. Is that correct?
No.
Has not been
No, it's
withdrawn?
still standing.
Oh, still standing, okay. I would probably request an executive session to discuss the issue in more depth. The public official that is subject to the request is perfectly fine with fully complying with it. However, we have legal reservations about certain portions of the request itself, and we would like to discuss that in more detail with you all. Anything to add, Mr. Chairman?
No, not that I don't want to ask in open meeting.
So at the very least, in receiving this type of request, in fulfilling the legal requirements, but on the front end, it would seem that we would need to make some type of estimate as to the cost that would be, so that we didn't go through this process and have several $1,000s invested in doing it, and then the person making that request say, oh no, I've changed my mind. So
Our off-the-cuff estimate of what this particular request would be in excess of $7,000. Probably in excess, I mean, it would be extremely cost prohibitive as far as the specifics of what has been requested. So, and that's just a rough guess of what it would cost.
What exactly, how's it charged? Is it
Well,
something per hour, do we charge
both.
per hour, or what?
Both, there's a page charge, and jump in, John, if you need to.
Yes, sir.
is it 50 cents?
It's 50 cents per page if we print or pull documents. It's $20 per hour after the first hour for staff time. Now, if we have to send that to the attorneys, the $20 does not apply.
And the request that has been made could entail very sensitive information. And so we want to be careful of not to violate indirectly other laws that are in play here. And so we'd like to discuss that with you.
Okay, well, since we have that recommendation, gentlemen, that further legal implication that be discussed in executive session, we'll just defer any further discussion until that on Monday, and as to how that we would comply with such a request.
Again, this is all legal concerns. And it has nothing to do with the official that's subject to. He is very open to providing all information that has been requested, so that, just to let you know.
So, and then there again, what we would have to anticipate, though, is too, my concern would be, once we got that complied with, and even if the person was willing to take care of the cost that the county would input into that, then I'll use myself again as an example, I would be concerned because of the issues I deal with and may correspond with families that's seeking some direction, not legal advice, but direction to the probate office on how they deal with their mentally ill family member or, and that just is one example. I certainly would not want those things subject to public scrutiny where it might be detrimental to the families that I'm
There's
dealing with.
taxpayer information, there's juvenile information, there's personal numbers that are out there. You know, all those types of exceptions to the open records law in the state and federally. And so you don't want to inadvertently violate those laws at the same time when you're trying to comply with this particular law, which is fine. There can be compliance, but it needs to be measured. And so that's what we wanted to discuss.
Well, certainly, we want to comply with whatever the laws are without violating anything that might, for legitimate reasons, we need to remain confidential.
You bet.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions? I think since we have this recommendation that our discussion probably should roll into executive session.
I guess the only thing I got to say is, I know we got to go ahead and do this because the request came in, but we do need to look at the other ways of doing things and following the state. Because I think the people that needs to understand there is a cost. And I ain't sure we advertise that as a cost, do we? That it could be very
It's
expensive.
part of the policy on the form.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But you talk about if you produce a copy of 10,000 emails that may be on my computer for the last year, and then you're talking about out of that 10,000 emails, they're not going to be subject to just one page. It could be 2 or 3 pages. So let's say it was 3 pages and it was 30,000 pages at 50 cents a page. It's $15,000 cost according to our current charge. And then the cost of actually someone printing each of those, and then attorneys maybe needing to review it for any sensitive material, it adds up to a lot of work and time.
Does it better be off to just have a company to come in and pull those documents and instead of hiring somebody?
On the form?
Well, that might could be done as well. That's, you know,
And then you could get a price that way, what a company would charge just to pull that. And they will look at the documents and we wouldn't be responsible at that point. And that person would know how much that would cost before they ever was pulled. They have a right at that point. And it may not even be covered that way now. I don't know.
And again, relying on what the state law is the fallback and what I recommend that your default to be. Because if it changes, let's say at the next legislative session, if it changes, then you don't want to have to go back and revamp your policy as well. And then that, you know, I have a feeling it'll eventually change. I don't think it's going to be, you know, changed based upon the current legislation, as Jeff was saying earlier. But just creating a
well,
form.
it certainly would require at least one additional full-time employee to the probate office if we, just to work on producing, if we were required to produce them for.
It's an awful bill. It's just awful.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say, my reservation here, the reason that I even brought this to you is someone has to review each one of those emails to look for that personally identifiable information or taxpayer information or HIPAA, any kind of HIPAA information. So there's about 7,000 emails to review, and that would, I knew we couldn't do that realistically. So I wanted to bring that before the commission.
And again, he had a decision to make, and I don't want to speak for you, but you got the policy looking you in the face, and then his compliance with the policy and his inability to comply, so that's why. I recommend right out of the gate, just, you know, save your form, create your form, but repeal your policy that you have in place.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're inadvertently violating your own policy. If you do that.
And the policy does allow for, provided the request is not for voluminous amounts of records. So it does give us the ability to go outside 7 days if there's a voluminous amount of records.
Sure.
But there again, I want some direction on what the
Okay, so
commission
we'll
would
discuss that further in executive session, and Scott, if any further recommendations that the council would have for the commission
Who made the request?
regarding Mr. Chris Murphy. Okay, all right, we'll move on,
If I
gentlemen.
might, Mr. Chairman, since I was I asked that this not necessarily be put on the agenda. It has been. I want to state something for the record. Quite frankly, you've made a mountain out of a molehill, but I understand the ramifications of my request. And the request has been mischaracterized. I'll read this briefly. Since I filed my public records request last month, I've been informed that the commission would need to review and request and provide direction to the county administrator. I informed Mr. Bullard that I did not think the request needed to proceed to the commission, that a simple commitment by Revenue Commissioner Greg Armstrong that he would not use county facilities, equipment, or services, email in particular, for personal, non-county, or political activity would suffice. I did not get a response from Mr. Armstrong. He was copied. There's a much bigger issue here than just the simple request or the major request for public records. And that is that county employees, and the Revenue Commissioner is one of them, should not ever use county resources for non-county uses. The posting of personal or non-official material, religious messages to social media is inappropriate, probably illegal. That activity can easily be posted before or after the work, or before or after work, or on the weekend. And I'm just going to submit for the record that I did file using your existing form. It includes emails that went to the county administrator back and forth with me, as well as the Revenue Commissioner. I simply am trying to make certain that email is not being used for business, personal, political purposes. I have no interest in exposing any confidential taxpayer or citizen information.
But you understand, Mr. Murphy, for us to comply with that, which we're looking at a way to do that, we have to scrutinize that information, and it makes it into a very big issue.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, you have something to, okay. All right, we'll move on, gentlemen, to our budget amendments we'll move on to our budget amendments that we have. If you'll consider number 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Those are all issues to do with routine budget amendments. Give you a moment just to look at those if you have any questions about them at all. If not, we'll handle those on Monday. We'll move to 24 is to consider agreements with the municipalities regarding our voting machines. And here again, I want to recognize our legal counsel. I think there's potentially an agreement that we need to enter in with the municipality regarding the use of our voting machines. And let me just state quickly that the tabulators that we use really do not belong to us, but they belong to election system software. And we pay a rental on those on a per-use basis. And of course, we do store those, and our staff does a wonderful job maintaining those. In fact, let me just stop here to say, anybody, and most of you probably have, but if you've not seen where we store those pieces of equipment and how well they're maintained, please go by Family Services someday and let William show you, because they do a fabulous job with that. But the the AutoMark, or the handicap assist machine, does belong to the county. And I think in the past, we have just made those available to municipalities as long as they were paying the expense related to the programming and so forth. But there is some legal concern that cropped up, and I forget all the details about it, Scott, so I just want to recognize you on that.
A lot of this is just to formalize. It's nothing necessarily that is a recommended change, other than the paperwork, if you will. Obviously, there's right and wrong way to get something accomplished, and in this situation, it's not necessarily wrong, but we wanted to keep someone inadvertently out of hot water. For instance, if an employee was providing the service you wanted him to provide, but yet he was doing it after hours just because he was a county employee, that may indirectly benefit him. We don't want that to be the case. We want to do it formally. So the recommended method is to do a contract with these municipalities saying, okay, well, you know, we're providing this benefit as a county to you, and we will designate the employee who will, because you have, like you were saying before, highly trained individual taking care of this, very knowledgeable in what he's doing. And so the recommended method is get the contract in place saying that you're sharing this equipment, because it's under lease with the county, not under lease with the city.
Correct.
But they have approved, I'm gonna call it the sharing of this equipment. But then if you designate the employee, a county employee that's versed in this technology and taking care of this equipment, and the cities will pick up the cost associated with that service. So that's it in a nutshell. You say, okay, here's the equipment, and you know, we're sharing it with you, and the trade-off is you take care of the employee's cost, just as you did before. It's been done that way, but it wasn't run through the county.
Right.
The paperwork and the funds, and the most legal way to deal with it is for it to run through the county procedurally.
Yeah, and I think there's some either AG or ethics opinion that come back down the pike a year or so ago.
Sonny Brassfield addressed this issue. Obviously, Blount County wasn't the only one dealing with it, but Sonny Brassfield dealt with it, and he requested an opinion. from the
Okay.
state.
So would it suffice if the commission just authorized our legal counsel to draft such an agreement and approve?
That's correct.
That going forward, gentlemen, would be okay with that?
That agreement has been drafted.
Okay.
And I would say that if you were also to identify the individual, authorize the individual county employee to operate pursuant to this agreement. So designating that individual is also recommended.
Yeah. Okay.
And the labor that it takes to do that.
Yes, sir. The contract identifies that the county will identify a county employee to take care of, manage the equipment that it's sharing, and also designate people to assist him in that effort. And so the compensation will be the same as was being provided previously before this agreement went in place. So nothing, and the city is going to be responsible for that.
Okay.
And another reason to do this for identifying the individual, because as you know, many times this is after hours. And so you got a county employee taking care of county equipment after hours, so.
Yeah. Okay, any questions at all?
So we ready to put it on the agenda then?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Approve the agreement as drafted by county. Okay, very good. It's a moment, gentlemen, I want to stop right there for just a moment to just say a couple of words. Of course, you know that we did have a primary election on Tuesday of this week, and that's why I can't hardly speak in complete sentences today. Leading up to that, and the stress involved, and the late nights and so forth to go with it, it's a very strenuous time for all those involved that's trying to put on the election. And I know how strenuous it is for a candidate, but for us that have the responsibility to hold the election, we want a fair, honest election that's above any reproach in any way whatsoever. And that falls on the shoulders of the probate judge. But the probate judge will be as lost as he could be, and it's a task that would absolutely be impossible without a wonderful network of support people. And we have on our staff a gentleman that is an elections expert in every form of the definition in Mr. William Blythe. And maintaining our machines, our handicap machines, ensuring they're properly tested, programmed, delivered, retrieved, properly stored, ready for the next election, is a huge undertaking. And I just want to tip my hat to William and your staff, William. We'd be totally lost without you. The staff at the probate office, especially our two designated employees, Ms. Hip and Ms. Seth, that work on this. It's a big effort. And you all did a fabulous job on Tuesday.
And Judge, if I may add to that, the expertise that you have in Mr. Blythe are few and far between. You would have to literally hire someone from that company who owns that equipment to come in as a professional service to do that, and the cities would too. This is actually a cost-saving measure for the cities, even though they are paying for the service.
Yeah, absolutely. So William, thank you.
Good job.
Tip my hat to you, man. You're doing a great job.
I've seen him several times riding around all day.
Yeah. The most, there are gonna be two very important things for the next person that serves in my position to know, and I will teach them well, and how to handle this. And the first thing you've got to say, know how to say, is where's William? And the second one, on election day, where's Kim? And then we get it all together, we put our heads together to get it done. But it is a teamwork effort. It takes everybody. It's a monumental. And we have a absolute wonderful record here in Blount County and the whole state of Alabama in elections, and we want to keep it that way. Okay, so thanks very much, William. Update on Family Services Center access doors. Anything we need to cover?
We're still working on it. We did confirm that we have till April 1st. So we initially had stated March 1st, but we followed up with Homeland Security, and they said that the extension was through April 1st. So William's continuing to hold their feet to the fire to try to get that done.
Any questions on that?
What are they saying, William?
Well, to make a long story short, the guy in charge left just less than a month ago, and nobody else knew what was going on. So right now, as far as my staff, we have all the doors in place, all the conduits, provisions made for the equipment. We're essentially waiting on them to show up and connect it together. And they assured me that they won't have a problem doing that, but they're not on site.
Okay. All right, so, you know, as always, there's a danger when you start calling names. So I also, in our election process, ought to give kudos to our county administrator for all he does, our assistant administrator, and their staff for what they do, and also, yeah, I know, but Keith Henderson, I tell you, we couldn't do, Keith's working on all of our final reports to be submitted to the state this morning, so that list grows long. Maybe I should just pass on over that. Stand apologies to everyone that I've missed. Okay, our ACCA legislative report, we have that in writing, I think, in our folder, but do we have anything, Mr. Vice President, that might need to be called our attention? That's okay. John, anything that you can be aware of?
The ACCA just asked us to include this update in everybody's file. Our legislative member, okay.
Yes.
Commissioner, I didn't know if you wanted to, if you'd had any updates from the committee, but you do have a report in your file.
Everybody's getting it, so. Okay. And then we have our county day, March the 11th. We try to get together and go.
That's right, next Wednesday.
Great. Okay.
I would like to say something. I think I appreciate John being on top of things, on the legislative things and the bills that's coming through and the tweets he puts out. I don't have that much time out on the road, but I do appreciate the way you handle that, because I can come back and retract on that and send it again.
I'll catch some of his tweets, like it'll pop up. I'll look into it while we're out there working, so.
I copy and paste a lot of that.
Well, you do.
Well, at least you know how to copy and paste. See, I have trouble with that.
He gets a bunch of retweets.
It helps us out on the road, because we
it
do
does.
not have that time.
It does. Well, very good. Well, everybody that can make plans to attend on March the 11th. Item 27 is to give an update on the land purchased by the county there north of Rainbow Crossing on 231. We did complete that purchase as directed by the county. I wanted you to be aware that I have met with a land surveyor on location last week, and their goal was that this week they would complete the survey of that property. Now, because of the weather, I don't know how much progress. I doubt they've got much done out in the field. But what they're doing is going to do a complete survey of the property. They're going to survey out a parcel of land sufficient to give full protection to the cemetery that's there that will remain forever in the county's ownership, which I think is good for that parcel of land that we'll establish. And also to draw a line across the property to be considered for the potential sale of that initial parcel should we get an offer. And I do expect, gentlemen, that we will receive an offer on that property to cover all the county's expenses and all that's related thereto. And we'd like to work toward trying to have that offer ready for your consideration in a March meeting. However, we have not received it yet, and there's some work to do, and Scott, I think there's some work to do for you and Jeff with the Economic Development Department on how to proceed with that. And we don't want to make any decisions without an adequately published public hearing that we promised early in this process, that before we sold any of this property. And it might be that it would be appropriate if everything materialized in the next week or so, it might be appropriate to have that public hearing prior to the next commission meeting in April. If we actually have something for consideration that we could present, would it please the commission to go ahead and authorize the chair to publicize a public hearing prior to our April meeting, if appropriate? Or if not, that if you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine. What we do is I just ask you to come back in a special meeting, but it would just be for setting a public hearing. Okay, give us a little bit of leeway on that. Ms. Smith, you'd like to be recognized?
Please, thank you. Can we request that be in the community, the meeting, and to be in the evening where the citizens of the area that work can attend that meeting? We would appreciate that.
Okay, we'll take that request under advisement. It's typically we have all public meetings here at the courthouse building. What would be an appropriate location if the commission wanted to consider that?
Earlier, I haven't asked for it recently, but Brooksville Fire Department said that they would be willing for us to have a public meeting in that facility.
How many people will that hold?
I don't know.
And is there chairs?
Yeah.
Is there chairs?
We've had district meetings up there before.
Really?
Yeah, it should be adequate for everybody who wants to. There's a lot of people who are concerned, and I know you know that, and they work, and a lot of them work in Huntsville, Birmingham areas, they just can't attend the meetings, and I just think there's respect to that community, it would be much appreciated.
Okay, we certainly take that under advisement, Ms. Smith, and we will ask you to give the chair the permission pursuant to what you feel is appropriate in Monday in the meeting. Okay.
Can I ask one other thing?
Certainly.
Are you open to are you open just to one particular entity's purchasing it, or there was some people in our community that had businesses that were also interested in purchasing it and developing it and getting jobs? Are you open to all of those people too, or is it just one entity that you're looking at?
Well, the entity we're looking at would not utilize the entire property, so certainly we would like to fully utilize the property if possible.
Right. I think you know of one company that's asked you.
With the exception, of course, that we will take all measures necessary to make sure that the small cemetery up there is always protected.
So you're saying basically that anyone that's interested in this point in time, the property is for sale by the county as long as it produces jobs in the area?
I think that any proposal would be of interest to the commission, but it should be made through our Economic Development
So
Council.
anyone that's interested can go to economic development and make a proposal.
I don't see that there'd be any problem with that.
All right, and so there's not a decision made with one company at this point.
Okay.
I got a question.
Sir.
Did the investigators get use of the house?
Yes, sir.
Chad was appreciative of that. I knew he'd been out beating the bushes.
I think they did that last Saturday.
They did a number on it too.
Did they?
Chad he had been seeking a house he could destroy.
Yeah.
They did a great job. They could go into the demolition business.
So glad we can. He was
And I,
appreciative of that.
and I think we're ready to go forward on cleaning that up. Go, awesome, good, okay. Okay, so we've got, we've had, because of all the rain, you know, if you got problem areas, whether it's on roads or with their buildings or anything, this excessive amounts of rain can really bring that to our attention. And, is this the pass? Okay. That can really bring that to our attention. And we have due to the excessive amount of rain that we were having and on election day, it brought to light some problems that we have over at Frank Green Building. So are you gonna address those,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner? Okay, we'll recognize Commissioner Calvert.
If y'all would, just go through these pictures and see that Mr. Wheeler, most of y'all know Darrell Wheeler, his son, Daniel,
Yes.
in the wheelchair. You see the issues that he had there at the sidewalks, at the Frank Green Building. I did go and look at this the next day. It's something we do need to address. I have actually got on the agenda at the City of Aniana, because I think we've got to work together on this situation, because we've got some issues with the roadway and issues with the sidewalk. According to the property lines, the sidewalk's gonna belong to the City of Aniana. And we're responsible for the approaches to the sidewalk. Now, I'm not for sure this is the exactly truth to that, but I think we'll have to
Let
do
me
a
ask-
survey to
Before you go
make
in,
sure.
you're talking approaches from the building to the sidewalk, not the approaches from a curb.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And based on that, it's gonna cause us to do a lot of other things. Now, looking at the problem we've got another major issue other than the sidewalks. The whole front approach there, as you walk up the sidewalk, it's got some major cracks in it that has dropped down approximately an inch, so there's a lot of settlement. So I think at this point, we need to redo the whole entrance and then get with the city about their share of their project in this. Because Richard, if you notice in the social media is a wonderful thing, it puts people on the spot. I think Richard spoke for the city of Aniana that they would be willing to do whatever, because he basically said that the county commission would be doing whatever. So I think it's a great opportunity to work with the city on not only this project, but look at all the other projects, because, you know, handicap is something I have to deal with at my house. My wife's been in a wheelchair. It is a concern of mine. I've never let it not be a concern of mine, but I did not know this was happening. But I think this all happening when all the rain started, because all these cracks that we have there, we have a lot of settlement. That entrance is falling. But is it dangerous? No. But it's something we need to address and need to start addressing now, yes. But that's gonna cause us to get Latham involved, because I think the front's gotta be redone to accommodate what we need to do.
Commissioner, I wondered about that too. You know, we've had that low spot, and you know that that was not probably originally built that way, but I wondered if additional layers of pavements on the street has kind of built up some.
Some of that, if you look in this, actually, this Google map.
I know a few years ago when Aniana did pave the streets, they did not mill anything. They built, if you
Well, the
look at
curbing, the curbing will tell you that. But you look in this Google map, you see where the water hose in the street? That's actually where we have to enter into the handicap. The handicap parking is not marked. These are city responsibilities. When the handicap ends of the street, it's not marked properly for they know they're not to block it. If you look in the picture that Darrell took, the handicap was blocked, just simply because you can't read the markings. And I appreciate Philip Richard bringing all these out to our attention, but I think it's gonna be a City of Aniana and the county project. And I think that we need to address all of our issues throughout our public buildings. And I want to call this the Daniel Project. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know about this. If it wasn't for Richard putting it on Facebook, I probably wouldn't have known it either.
That's the reason I alerted you other nights, because it's in your district.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, because I didn't know about it. And I think it's something we need to absolutely address. This was addressed, our maintenance guys do a great job on the accessibilities, handicap on our precincts. This was just overlooked. This has been addressed on the plots on the road.
Right, and let me say this, Commissioner, when I was made aware of this on election day, which I got word that it had been a social media post, I saw the picture, I stopped, I called Dan Porch, addressed it immediately, because that would have been some things left over from his extension service. It was just overlooked, but he addressed it immediately.
I would like to mention, we was talking about our maintenance doing the machines. I don't know how many ramps they put out on our precincts to be able to handle the handicap, and how many thresholds they have to add for the handicap. So we really do a good job, but this is more of a structural issue and the City of Aniana's issue that we need to work together on. But we got issues like the engineering office. does not have handicap accessibilities. And I know we have abilities to put, or we're moving forward and to do these projects, but I think it's time now that we put them in higher gear and go ahead and address all of our handicap situations. And I asked William this morning if he'd work with me on maybe going around and giving me all the faults that we have and maybe start addressing the ones that we know we can address easily. But this one here at Frank Green Building, Mr. Chairman, it's gonna take Latham to be involved and City of Indiana's engineering service they wanna do, because it's gonna be some street issues. If you see where, in that Google map, how the water hose within the street, that's gonna have to come from them. Anything past this red line is the City of Indiana's responsibility, and we need to survey that and find out exactly where that's at. Thanks to Richard, he's pretty much said that city would fix their part too, so that's a great thing, that we can work together. And I'm actually on their council to speak that night, Tuesday night, so I can't wait to see if we can get things started for Daniel, and I actually call this the Daniel Project.
Do you think that, what do you think, Commissioner, would be the appropriate action for us on Monday? Do we need to, or just wait until you've had that meeting, or do we need to
I
authorize?
think we need to move
Latham?
forward, because this is a handicapped situation, and it's a structural issue that I think we need to address.
And that's 44 years of age coming.
Is it?
44 years ago.
Okay, so to authorize Latham Associates to assess
This is a project that could run up into the summer just to get completed. This is a major project, just like the front of this one is.
so to authorize Latham Associates to do a study and make
I think that needs to
recommendations.
move forward.
All right, that needs to be the motion then. Okay. All right, any further discussion on that matter? Yes, sir.
I believe at one point, we've already entered into an agreement with Latham for the Frank Green building and the courthouse to do the assessments, and they did a review and assessment for that, so we may have.
Well, you think we already have some work done?
authorized Or have the ability to move forward with them.
Okay,
I think so.
all right.
That's what I was just looking at, the offset of where your right-of-ways are, I guess we're gonna call those right-of-ways where the red lines are.
Yes.
They're offset on the housing side, and it's closer to the roadway on the Frank Green building side.
Normally, when you build a project, the builder is responsible for the sidewalk, but once it's turned over and it is cleared, and you got a letter of occupancy, that right-of-way then becomes the city.
Right.
So this is a city situation also.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
definitely.
Sort of like a street
It's
thing.
great that we can enter into a contract with them, but like I said, I won't know anything until Tuesday night. And Richard will be there, so maybe we can get moving on this project.
Be a similar situation to a subdivision. The city probably at one time had to approve this sidewalk plan, and then they accept maintenance of it once the building's occupied. Just like that.
And again, it's the rain that really called attention to it, because we've, and it just happened, which maybe in the long run, it's a good thing, because it does draw our attention to and prompt us to move forward, but,
Mr. Ellis came in, and I know that's a long trip through there, but we have capabilities of getting in the building, and that's what's my concern right now, is let's get capabilities of getting in the buildings, and then we'll address our tops, because it's not that we don't care. It's
Oh,
just
certainly.
we've got to make sure everybody has the same abilities to get in right now.
okay. 29, gentlemen, I put that on there just as a reminder. We've discussed this a couple of times, and I think maybe William, Commissioner Armstrong, or Commissioner Calvert may have looked at the Hayden Annex issue. We've had a couple of events in the last month. It's caused our ladies down there to really be uncomfortable with irate citizen. And I'm not sure what the assessment was when y'all went down and looked at that, but I'm thinking if we could consider just a glass type separation between them and the public would give them the comfort that somebody just can't reach across the counter or make them feel threatened on that. And how the proper way to go about that, we'll just talk about it, but that's kind of my
Well,
thought.
Mr. Chairman, that goes along with this other, because we don't have handicap accessibility is good there either. So we have actually went up there, and there's some changes of the desk areas that would help them also feel better secure, because of the way the license are, you have to take pictures on this side. But I think we need to move forward on that as soon as possible. And that's something that maintenance guy's been covered up with the elections.
Right, and we got a runoff breathing out her neck now, so.
So, yes, I think we can move forward.
Instead of
I would
putting,
like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
instead of putting glass up at the annex, would it not be cheaper just to build a wall across the counter with however many clerks we have and put a window there that, where there's just one window? I mean, it don't have, the whole thing don't
It's
have
just
to
the
be.
blind spots that
Yeah.
they gotta be able
And
to
they're-
control.
And over here to the right,
You
there's
don't want
accessibility
to-
to get in,
I know
get in behind the
it
counter,
comes in
which probably needs to be addressed too, so.
Okay.
And this goes along, I'm gonna go ahead and mention this, I need the county commission also to consider the remodel of the engineering office. The fundings we got's not enough, and our building is rusted at the bottom about 8 inches up, and we have penetrating water coming in, and we've had to do some skinning already that I need the county commission to consider. Let's moving forward on reskinning that building before we have some major issues. And the finishing the remodeling up there, I think, William has discussed with me that we don't have enough to completely finish it, that we need to move forward and finish that building. And I guess that needs to be on the agenda, Judge.
Okay, that's us making a note here. Do we want to try to come back with estimates on these costs for you to approve those costs? Or, I have no idea what we'd be looking at Hayden or.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at Hayden, but we don't have any material
All right,
costs. or
so
anything.
why don't we authorize, going forward that, we go ahead and study that and try to get an estimated cost to come back for your approval, or?
That's fine. And
Okay.
as we're going on the building, it's just been a slow go, so we just been doing it countywide right now. If that's okay, we'll just continue that until we get a final cost. But if William can work with it and get us what the interior's gonna be, we can come back to the commission in, next month?
Yes.
Talking about the cost on everything?
Yeah,
Including reskinning the building?
yeah, and the annex and all that. But continue because it's a slow process.
Okay, any questions?
It may be a little tough to have it next month, because, you know, we're about to turn around and do another election.
Right.
So we're a little strapped for time.
So May.
If you can do the building,
Yeah.
the engineering office, it would be good, at least the skinning, so we can continue with that.
Right.
Because that's what's holding you up on the inside.
But as far as all the projects, you know, there's a plan in place for a lot of these upgrades. It's just a matter of, we're trying to do projects as we go, and some of them take time. And as you know, we self-perform a lot of these, you know, a project that we may do for ourselves that's $200,000. If we contract it out, it's $500,000 sometimes. So that's one of the reasoning, the factors in some of these taking so long. But with this election going on, I know we're gonna be tough to get all these other ones started, but if we can start talking about them and get Lathan involved where it's applicable and get a list together, we can start moving a direction. As far as getting all the pricing all at once, it's gonna be tough to get.
Right, and you also about finish up the Family Service Center, that section there.
The renovations of the family service, the area specific that's going to be rented out, I believe we've entered into an agreement with Save a Life already for a large portion of that. But the carpet is going on the floor this week and final coat of paint next week, and they're just about ready to start moving in and occupying that space. So
Right.
we're moving on.
That enters into another problem. We have a parking issue out there, and we have a handicap issue out there too. So one thing brings on another that we have to address, and some of the things that, William, I don't think that in a timely manner, you can handle everything.
That's
You
right.
know.
We can't physically, we can't paint them.
Which means we may have to put some things out to bid, you know, there's, you know, I recently hired just a little small project done in the vault, and, our maintenance would have done a better job, but just try to take a little off of them because we had I had a little money I could spend on that, so we had a local cabinet shop, build some shelves there. And, Williams' crew had done a fabulous job on that, but I just wanted to take that off of them if I could. And, so if there's any of these that we need to hire done, we can give that consideration.
And one more thing to kind of put back on your plate just a little bit is these elections that we do, you know, and Commissioner Calvert mentioned, you know, we do stuff there. You know, we put a tremendous amount of time into certifying and placing the handicap marking devices. In
Oh, yeah.
addition, you know, we do, I think 56 buildings, we put in temporary ramps, temporary thresholds. We put out dozens of vote here, handicap parking signs for these locations. This is repetitious, you know, this month we're doing everything multiple times, because there are 2 elections, so, you know, there's, if there's any money available through any grants through the, elections process, and I know it becomes an issue of privately owned and municipal buildings and different things, but if we can make some provisions to actually go out and pour some aprons and pour some, parking areas and put up permanent signs, if there's any funding that we can come through with that.
Well, and there is.
I can oversee and get that done.
It's not a lot of
There's
money.
those, repetitious in and outs that we do when we do the elections, we could cut that out.
We've got somewhere between 50 to 60,000, or that's an estimate, in Help American Vote Act funds that are available to us. And certainly, that's what those monies need to be spent for. And you know, we kind of planned on that once before, and just the overwhelming amount of things that we've had to do, we've kind of just kept pushing that forward. But that's what we want to use that money for. So as far as that would go, all I have to do is I have to have approved through the Secretary of State's office this expenditure of that money. So I need to be able to describe the project, the cost, ask for Help America Vote funds to do that. They would actually, on approval, cut us a check, and we'd have the money to do the project with.
Does that require a state certified architect, and does it require that it be?
I
ADA?
don't think it would on just the small projects that we'd do out at voting places.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Certainly, sure.
I worked on that back when
You did?
that's been several years ago, and it got sticky when it was private property, and the county was gonna do that. So we probably need some advice from our county attorneys about how to move that along, because going on to private property, moving that money there, that was getting sticky. And that's the reason that didn't go any further, because we hit that snag.
Now, when you say private property, you're talking about like some of the churches that are holding
And
places?
community centers that are not owned by the county.
Yeah. Fire departments wouldn't fall under that though, would they?
Fire department would work.
Right.
You could do it with fire department.
Intergroup.
Enter agreement with fire department.
Each individual location you're talking about, it could be handled, but there's a specific method that you need to follow.
Each one of them was different.
Yeah, and since we just kind of have an open discussion about that, we can't make any changes between now and March 31st on our polling places. But I would really, before the November election rolls around, and this would be subject to your approval, of course, we really need a better place to vote in the Dallas-Selfville community. And I wish we had an alternate location at Sugar Creek, just because of the danger of being on 160 and the limited amount of parking there. And I see those as the 2 places that's creating the greatest challenges for us right now, and I'd really like to get those done. So, Nick, some ideas I've got about Dallas-Selfville that you might could help follow up on. We have to, the reason we can't do it on short notice, we have to actually notify through the Board of Registrars every voter that their voting location has changed, and that has to be done quite earlier than the election, seem like it's 30, 60 days or more. So, but I'm stumped on Sugar Creek, Commissioner.
I was thinking maybe Oak Grove Church up the hill.
They have been very gracious in the past, and they really didn't want to do it up there, but they actually put some money and helped do some work to the fire station at one time. But that would be an excellent location, but there's not a lot to choose from in that.
I'll look around.
Just keep that in mind, because I'd really like to get them a better parking and not pulling.
Parking right there in front of that.
No, that's dangerous. And then at
Is it
Dallas-Selfville,
possible, can you combine 2 polls?
you could. It could
Here's
be.
what we run into at Hagen the other day. Voter turnout was heavy, of course, presidential. And they were almost out of parking at the community center.
Yeah. And they did a great job flowing the people through there. We made some changes on how we'd actually operate the poll, and they did a great job there. But you're right, it was really full part of the time. So I don't know there, down in that area, we'll talk about it and think about what the options are, but we need to do something. Okay,
I'm gonna add a couple of things.
sure.
If you surplus a piece of equipment, how long do you have to sell that?
I surplus one and I'm still using it right now. I know it's a time of
Okay.
year.
You got
to sell
mine.
one.
You got mine.
As long
Okay.
as it's done and it's went through the commission, you can do it whenever you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to go ahead and put on the agenda to surplus my Caterpillar motor grader. Monday.
The new,
The one you were asking about yesterday, about the,
Uh-huh. And, second thing I want to add is, resolution recognizing the Susan Moore powerlifting team on winning the state for the second year in a row, for 3A, and for the second year in a row of winning the state for the overall 1A through 7A. That is a huge accomplishment, and, anytime we win a state,
We're making notes. Say it one more time, right? It's,
the, powerlifting team,
1A through
they had the 3A state championship.
3A championship, okay.
And the overall score for 1A through 7A. So that was pretty impressive to do that one year, but to do it 2 years in a row, to be the best in the state in any high school is extremely impressive.
Okay.
And I think you can see the results in Susan Moore's football team last year.
Who's their coach on that?
I do believe it's Coach Lauderdale.
Okay.
I'm not,
We need to get.
I'll find out on that.
We need to get a little tidbits of information.
Hagen boy. Hagen boy.
Okay, anything else further, gentlemen, that we need to consider? If not, we'll recognize our engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 30, RBG Partners would like to, for the commission to consider a preliminary plat for Harmony Hills subdivision, which is in District 4. Each of the commissioners have a copy of the plat. The plat will be, approval of the preliminary plat will be contingent on a variance request from RBG Partners, chief engineer that's designing it, Mr. Kevin Ashley. That letter is also in the folder for the commissioners. This variance request is to allow a 2-to-1 back slope. Our regulations require a 3-to-1. On the left, which is the north side of the proposed Carter Ridge Road alignment from Station 1+00 to Station 2+25. The roadway back slope using a 3-to-1 slope encroaches beyond the current right-of-way limits onto the property owned by Larry and Janet Cash. The right-of-way on the northern side cannot extend into this private property without a conveyance by the Cash family members. The last plan sheet in this packet shows where the variance is being requested. And it's recommended to only grant this, and it's my recommendation to only grant this variance if item 2 in this letter is followed, which is to require the contractor to place riprap apron on the 2-to-1 back slope.
Dustin, what were you saying about the cash people?
The variance is being requested because if we were to require them to use a 3-to-1 back slope, it would encroach beyond the current right-of-way that they're proposing. It would encroach into the property owned by Larry and Janet Cash.
I got a question on this.
Mi-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Mr. Michael Higgins, which is the surveyor on the project, he's here today. If you have any questions, you wanna ask him directly.
Well, I was gonna add, is this not one that Lockport wanted inside their police jurisdiction and
That's
do the?
it.
This project has been ongoing since 2013, I believe.
Probably since 08.
So, yeah, it was originally a Locust Fort, town of Locust Fort subdivision.
Well, I remember them requesting to want to have it.
That's correct.
So now they don't want it.
That's correct. The town of Locust Fort, originally, it extended to the police jurisdiction. They had a resolution written to, for the county to take in, the land that's in their police jurisdiction. So now we are, required to, regulate the subdivisions in
my question is, are we gonna allow them to pick and choose what they want inside their police jurisdiction and what they don't?
Well, I think they had some problems with all this, and, it was going on.
Yeah.
When I came in,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of scratching around out there with equipment and
Yeah.
leaving, and, I've been on the phone with, ADM, and I haven't got a very good report from ADM, and as far as I know, ADM cannot get in touch with anybody. They've reached out to numerous people that's involved with this. Nobody can get in touch with them from ADM. And, I'm probably not gonna be in favor of this just because, I mean, when it sounds like when a problem comes up, ADM can't get them. And if a problem comes up, you know, if that's how they're going out with ADM, I don't know how they're going out with us. But right now, they haven't followed anything to do with ADM doing subdivisions, and that's about all I know.
Well, like I said,
ADM for it.
as far as going back to what I was talking about, we don't need them to pick and choose who they want in and who they want. If they want it, they need to annex it, or do not have any regulation outside their corporate limits at all.
I think, is that where we are with all the municipalities now?
Yes, sir.
What about the city of Aniana?
I think they still do.
What I understand
They're
is,
doing their own.
everybody, all the municipalities are doing whatever in their corporate limits, and outside is the counties.
But a few years ago, Looksport requested.
Yeah, yes, sir, that is correct, and however, that's been withdrawn due to the fact of the county's regulations. Kind of, last time we improved the county's regulations, it was the same regulation that Loaksport had, and the council determined that really was no sense in them continuing in their police jurisdiction since everything was the same.
And I think during all that, y'all to understand this, but they still use our county engineer to go over stuff.
That's
correct.
Yeah, the old subdivision
So,
regulations.
I mean,
Right, and that's what I'm saying, though, if they wanna
I
regulate.
would rather be more in a loop, you know, than just here or there.
That's what I'm saying, if they wanna regulate it, let them annex it in, if not, step
Right.
away.
I know that's how they do it. They always do that.
And I didn't, touch on Carter Ridge Road is currently a private drive. It's not a county road. As part of their preliminary plat, they would have to curb and gutter Carter Ridge Road, to the point on the plat, and it would have to have, 2 inches of binder and 1 inch of, a wearing layer of asphalt, so. And then obviously Tulip Drive, where they're planning to, place the 6 lots would have to be curb and gutter and, have to have an asphalt surface as well.
So who is the business doing this?
RBG Partners.
Is that the same one that was doing it when it was in Locust Fork, or have they changed their name?
It was Walden Development.
See, that's what I'm saying, everybody's changing stuff, and it's.
If you need a contact, I can get you a contact.
It's good, I've got the contact number, they don't answer, and they don't return stuff.
What name do you have?
I can't pronounce it.
Dustin, introduce this gentleman again.
Somebody from Atlanta.
This is Mr. Michael Higgins. He's the surveyor on the project.
Oh, the surveyor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see. So you're not part of the development process, you're just surveying the I see.
I'm just trying to help them through this process.
Okay, so you're not the engineer for the subdivision, or,
No, we're
You're-
doing engineer work together.
okay, you're doing the survey work. I got you. I understand.
The
I was gonna ask you some questions, but I don't think you'd, that's probably not in what you would be working on, and that would be, you know, you're looking at 6 lots on this proposed development.
Actually, they're gonna do, you know, if that goes okay, the first 6. They've got 110 acres here. And they're looking at doing a pretty good size enclosed development. You know, gated community type thing. So they're gonna try to have lakes, walking trails, bigger tracks, that you get on into that 110 acre property.
You know-
Curb and gutter roads, you know, they have no choice.
Yeah, if you build out this, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
If they build out this road to service these 6 lots, that's no way gonna cover the cost of building this road.
I get that, but.
Yeah, okay.
I get that.
Okay, so it'd almost be that we would have to require a bond sufficient to rebuild that road at some point in the future, because, you know, if they're gonna do that much more construction later on, some way we'd have to cover that, and it might have to be with posting a proper bond.
And part of the this process, our subdivision regulation process, this is just to approve the preliminary plat, which would give them a permit to develop. Obviously, once they build out this road, they have to bring back a final plat before the commission, with a bond, a proper bond that we would request of them.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned gated community. This is being proposed as a public community, being public roads and everything, so didn't want to, that could.
I missed that.
So we're going to a private subdivision, gates.
Gated
Well, he mentioned gated community.
Oh,
He
okay,
may
I
have
missed
just,
that.
he may have just not been clear, but it's proposed as a public subdivision, in other words, public road.
County maintained road.
That's correct.
That's correct.
The only problem I have, I'd like a traffic count on Deverstown. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's not a really wide road, and they show 6 lots here, and then we approve it, and then they wanna have 100 and something acres plus development behind that, and that adds that much more traffic to the road. And then everybody gets mad because there's another 100 houses back there or whatever they're gonna do, but, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea for that road. That road's already small, and we're gonna add that much more traffic to it, and the problems that I've seen from ADM. Is there any way that you could get in touch with somebody and have them here Monday?
Is this that
As part of the
road?
development team, right? You want the developer here? The developer lives out of state, or do you want their engineer here?
Whoever's over it.
Engineer probably best.
All right, and isn't there someone that lives at the end of this private road now?
Yes, sir.
There's a
couple of dwellings at the
Couple of ro-
tracks,
Okay.
pieces of property.
The first time, from what I remember from seeing from Locust Fork, the road was actually a separate road from Carter Ridge. But I think this is showing using Carter Ridge and then breaking off of it, going into the subdivision. And at first, it was gonna be a road coming off Deverstown straight into the subdivision. So there's been plenty of stuff changed from Locust Fork to the county and,
Plans that you have there, those were the plans that got approved through Locust Fork.
okay.
I was there at that meeting when they, and that was before Locust Fork changed over to county engineering.
Yeah, the existing Carter Ridge Road is 90%, on their property. There's a little kink in it that runs onto the Cash property, but the new road would be, fully owned RBG Partners property.
How does that affect the people that have used this road over the years, or does it affect it at all at the back of the road? I
So
think
far, it's affected them a lot.
It's gonna enhance their road. They're actually going down the same path that they're going now, but they're gonna have a
they would have,
road.
so they'd have legal access, okay.
Yeah, when I say gated community, I just kind of meant quiet, not really gated, because the road will have to be turned over to the county, so you can't have a gated community that way. I'm just saying that these lots are gonna be out into the woods, where you just don't see them, from the road. The entrance, it's what, 2,000 foot long before you actually get to the actual development.
I see. Okay. All right,
Secluded.
so do we wanna ask the engineer on the project to come to a meeting? Is that, so, I say he's in Gadsden.
Yes, sir. Kevin Ashley.
All right, so the request is, for a preliminary plat.
Now, for overall general questions about the future plans for the subdivision, I would think you would need to ask RBG Partners.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they may stop at 6 lots, I have no idea.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
Mr.
They
Ashley,
may build that road and they may sell 3 lots, no more.
They're gonna lose money if they do that.
I know that road's gonna cost.
For
so,
sure, yeah.
Again,
Yeah, I think what we want to do is have a little better overview of what the long-term plan is. Is that what I'm hearing before we do anything?
I would like that.
so what if they just said they wanted to do 6 lots? I mean, if they've got the money, what's the issue?
Yeah.
As long as they meet the subdivision regulations, there's nothing we can do, but they have to meet those. But I'm with Commissioner Washburn, I don't do variances, so they have to straighten that out. But if, once they meet all the guidelines, we can't deny them at that point
So,
for this phase of into it.
but are you thinking that, you're saying, Ben, that you can't get in touch with anyone through this company about the issues that AM are having?
It's not a good start.
Is what you're having an issue with? Is that it, or is it an issue with you?
I'm having an issue with not being able to contact them. The
Okay.
issue with the road, on getting a traffic study done about it to see how many houses are gonna go back there, or if there's gonna be a different phase of it, or if it's just gonna be 6 houses. There's been a lot of ongoing, so we have to go out there, we've had to go up there and clean out the road because the silt has washed across our road on
I've seen
county.
that.
And nobody, ADM can't get them. They can't even get them to talk to them, so if they're having problems with ADM has a lot more power than we do. I mean, I don't wanna get in something that's gonna be a mess.
Sir, it may be that you're the right person to help facilitate some communication here. You think you could do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So your meeting Monday is? Sir?
9 AM Monday morning, but we meet every month. You know, if it's not something that has to be considered in our March meeting, we could plan for our April meeting.
Yeah, well, they're trying to get moving forward because they're wanting to actually do it.
Uh-huh.
And they've been trying to get this done for over a year.
A long time.
And, we've done 4 or 5 different subdivisions, and they're kind of wondering what's the hold up on that.
Okay, all right. So the variance, can you go over what the variance is one more time?
Yes, sir. There's a back slope, being proposed at, close to the entrance of Beaverstown Road. On the northern side of Carter Ridge Road is Janet and Larry Cash, their property.
Okay, I'm following you on the map.
So if you go to the property line and then go to the bottom of the ditch, they're proposing putting a 2-to-1 back slope. Our current regulations require a 3-to-1 back slope. 2-to-1 is, obviously more severe than a 3-to-1 back slope. So if the variance is granted, my recommendation would be to require them to place riprap on this 2-to-1 back slope.
Okay, it's not gonna be able to be mowed and all
That's
that kind of
correct,
stuff.
yes,
It's
sir.
too steep.
We have 2-to-1 back slopes on our state projects, and that's how we treat it, is with riprap and filter fabric.
Are the Cashews in agreement to the proposed design?
I've had no objections.
And that's for about a distance of 200 foot.
Because they can't dedicate what they don't own. The developer can't dedicate what they don't own.
They're not going to be on the cash property.
Do they own the roadway entirely?
They didn't ask for easements or nothing, they actually own it. You say they have to actually own it.
Well, I mean, they need to own it and have no objection to the development of, can I develop your driveway?
All right, so I think I'm seeing the issue now. To meet our back slope requirements, they'd have to get over on the adjoining property owner.
That's correct.
Okay, so they're asking for
Or
variance.
shift the road over completely.
Yeah, okay. So,
What's the reason we can't shift the road over?
Normally, you
It'd
try
be
to
up to
keep
their
the
engineer.
road in the center of the right of way, so you're gonna create pretty odd peak there. You're gonna have
Well, they could dedicate more right of way, because they own the property to the south side.
we own the property.
That's what I'm saying, if they own the whole piece of property, it shouldn't be a
So
issue.
they just have to dedicate more right of way to the county. And if that's what we require them to do, then that's fine.
I've just seen it, I've been came in at 16, and it was a problem when I came in. I heard about it, and it was going on before I came in. And ever since I've been in, they go out there, they scratch around, they rent a piece of equipment, they drop it off, they scratch around on top of it, just not really nothing major, make some mud and silt, and they leave and go back to Atlanta. And you may not hear from them for a week or a month or 3 months, and they show back up, they'll work a little bit for a weekend, they're gone. And I've been unhappy with it, but
Have you guys seen those, have you actually seen a set of plans?
All I've seen is the dirt and everything, that the silt fence didn't hold up, and it just come across the
No,
road.
I agree with all of that, and I told, and I'm just a surveyor, and I told them, I said, you're gonna have some issues with ADM. I said, you guys need to get in touch with the engineer and get this straightened out. I said, because I see silt before you get on your property.
Yeah.
I said, I wasn't seeing that
Right.
before I came out to survey. You know, these guys are maybe Jamaican or something, I'm not sure. When you talk to them on the phone, you can't hardly understand them. If you talk to them face to face, you can understand what they're saying. So
Okay.
communication on the phone is very good.
That's
that's correct.
And it's, from what I can gather, from the meetings that I've had, and there's probably 2 guys that has the money, and then there's 1 guy that's kind of, you know, hiring everybody. And he is looking to hire a local guy to build a road in the town of Locust Fork, which I told him I thought he needed.
Right.
Because we were having issues with those guys from the time. And I told them I didn't think they knew what they were doing. So, that's where we're at now. We get approved, and we're trying to get this local guy to come in, the engineer come in, and the first thing we gotta do is get those SIP fences up before they can do anything. So, I mean, that's really where their problem is, and I've told them.
But actually, if they met our requirements, we'd be good to go forward. So
In the
it,
preliminary.
in the preliminary, so it sounds like the simplest thing for them to do is move the road over and meet our requirements on the back slope.
We've reviewed their plans since August, I believe. We started the reviewing process, so it's been a long process. I've got a set of plans right here if anybody wants to look at them. But their plan set meets, after several revisions, it currently meets our subdivision regulations.
If we give this variance.
If the variance is
If the
granted.
variance.
So what you're saying is, if they meet everything that we're required to do, we have to vote yes to
Well,
have subdivision.
I don't know how we deny
Because
that.
other than that, why are we voting?
Yeah.
Well, we can't deny it once they meet it, but the problem I have with it is why they do a variance after all the planning's done. Because
It's not been put together very well, that's the reason.
Because I wouldn't want to put this much engineering in something that I'm gonna have to have a vote of the commission, and I don't do variances, and I'll tell you why. That 200 feet of rock, one day's gotta be added to, or something that's gonna put the responsibility back on this
There's gonna
commission.
be trees coming through it, we'll have to go mow it.
The variance also is arguably, I don't know this, if we're speaking out of school, it's arguably on someone else's property that has not yet dedicated
The right of way.
the right.
I don't think that was well planned.
I didn't
Our
realize,
commission- the
didn't
commission
realize
was-
that to this morning, but that seems to be the case.
So if they moved the road, wouldn't have to do the riprap.
That's correct.
And then they're back to meeting all the guidelines of the
Right.
county,
And then
we can't deny them
exactly.
to move forward.
So it's basically in their hands.
So no variance.
I don't see why they'd not come to us before they had all this engineering done and ask for a variance before they ever got there.
Well, our subdivision regulations say that at the time a preliminary plat is approved, that the variance can be requested. So that's what our regulations.
But they failed to meet the other guideline, which we don't allow. And that's hitting a private property, a landowner without ownership,
Right.
is what I'm hearing from.
Now that, I mean,
Council.
unless they can explain that away, I just realized that sitting here this morning that the property in question is privately owned, not just by the developer, by an adjacent property owner. And so, if you all approve it, they still can't install it, I mean, without liability over person's property.
No, the variance would grant them the ability to use a 2-to-1 back slope, which means they wouldn't have to encroach on the property owner.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
If not, they would, yeah.
Not that they would.
So how much land would they need from the joining landowner to?
Without shifting the road.
Yeah,
south.
might be easier for them to buy a little 200
Yeah,
strip,
it wouldn't be much.
10 or 15 foot strip,
Yes.
something like that.
That would be another option they could pursue.
Per se. That might be a cheaper thing, but now I don't know what their relationship with the cash landowners are.
Like you're saying, that last name.
Is that right? All about that cash.
Money talks.
Strip, they had to buy some property from them, and they know they had them over a barrel, because they had to get a certain amount. See, this strip that they put this road in, they actually had to buy that strip.
Okay.
Hard to buy something that's not for sale.
Mhm.
It's really expensive.
So that's probably not something to do. It's like there, if we didn't grant the variance, then it would be, they got to shift the
Shift the
road.
road or
Yeah.
come up with nothing there to
But it'd be, it looks to me like it'd be,
Curve in that road, kind of, it's just like put your horizontal curve in, push it out.
My question to Scott, if they come back with everything how the county wants it, and we vote it down, I mean, what, the reason I'm saying that is on Deverstown Road. I mean, it's a small road, and we're gonna add a bunch of houses. Well, right now, we're gonna add 6, but I have a feeling eventually if those 6.
potential would be there.
Yeah, and that's what, me or whoever's here at that time, then they're gonna be getting phone calls. We all 3 of us up here, everybody up here understands that people move in, and then they get comfortable about 2 or 3 years, and they start calling and complaining about the road that they drove on to go look at the house. And that's what I don't wanna put up with when
If
you get
that's-
a bunch of houses back there.
If that is a pending question, allow me to reserve my legal advice to you for our executive session on Monday. Because I can see it going into depth, and I don't think you want that advice out here.
Okay.
So I think we have an understanding now of what the issue is, so I don't know that the engineer being here would matter at this point. Do y'all, I think we understand the issue, so I don't know that their engineer would help us on that. It's just a matter we do need to have some open lines of communication here. So any consideration of this issue would be done after the executive session on Monday. Is that your advice?
Yes, sir.
Are you okay with that, Commissioner?
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Then we've got the consideration of variance of the portion of Remlap Drive that we had the public hearing prior to. Any further reports from county attorneys, except say you will recommend an executive session?
Yes, sir, on 2 different levels.
Okay. So we've got the County Day of Legislature coming up on the 11th. Oneonta Chamber of Commerce banquet on March 31st. Our next work session will be on April the 9th, with our meeting to follow on the 13th. Any further announcements? If not, I would like to say this, that we had some inclement weather for the dedication of the Freedom Bridge, but looking ahead, the commissioner did a great job in getting everything lined up and ready, and considering the rainy weather, I thought we had a fabulous event. I think it was enjoyed and appreciated by all. And I did have a call later in the afternoon from the scheduling director of the governor to just say, we want y'all to know the governor really enjoyed coming to Blount County. So I thought that follow-up call was very, very appreciated. And she said, and she don't say that every time. So appreciate everyone say up there, Commissioner.
May have had something to do, you reminded her how many votes.
Well, I couldn't see her, but they said she grinned big, so I don't know, I couldn't see it, but that was good.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say I appreciate John's effort and all that he done, the engineering
Absolutely.
office, what they done for us out there that day, and the relationship that you have with the governors really, I think, brought that all together, and I appreciate everybody had a part in that. The Historical Society really played a big role in that, getting folks out there and getting the word out also, so I appreciate everybody had a part in it.
Well, it was definitely a great day for Blount County. Anything further, gentlemen, before we leave? If not, we'll be adjourned and meet back on Monday at 9 a.m. Thank you so much.